Hey folks, Phil the B-Man here. In my thinking about frames and plastic versus wood and so on, I got to thinking a little bit more about the wax coating on the plastic, which is something that with a full plastic frame is kind of awkward to do. It would use a lot of wax. And that got me thinking even more about why I think my dipping method is better than what's commercially available or other methods of applying wax. My thinking here is a bit like the amount of wax used in my 9 versus 10 frame thinking, which is you want lots of wax on the frame and you want it to stay there, and that's where it's worth the most to you. And I know that lots of folks, this is sheet of wax, and they'll either rub some wax on it. This is what's been applied, and I don't really know how it's applied at the factory, but I'm thinking it's probably brushed or rubbed on because there's very little. There seems to be a fair bit right on the surface, not so much in deep. You can see there's a little on this one, just a little dribble of wax there. The rest of it, it's clearly you can feel it. There's wax on there, but boy, it's thin. So I wanted to do a really fair test. I didn't want to use like my sheets versus theirs or anything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dip these sheets that I got halfway, and then I'm going to put them in marked frames. I've got one's marked right cell, 6 of those, 6 of the permanent. So we've got 3 black sheets permanent, 3 white sheets permanent, and they're the ones with the cut corners. And then I got 3 black sheets right cell. These have a slightly thicker profile. The plastic is slightly deeper, makes the sheets slightly stiffer, and also theoretically would need less wax to dry, and I think that's one of the things that they promote. And 3 sheets yellow. So I'm going to dip all these halfway, put them in the frames, and then we're going to wait for them to turn up in the boxes. I'll try to make sure they go right on top of some good typical average hives. We'll come back in 2 weeks and see what's drawn and what's not. Okay, so here we go. On dipping this, I know that I use my wax melter, and it seems like a lot of wax, but actually there's only about an inch of wax on the top, and the rest of it's water. And there's a few candle wicks in there because I was short on wax, and it's just right at the end of this job, so I threw in all the broken candles. We've had a heck of a year for making candles, and the ones that weren't quite perfect or didn't sell or whatever, I've been gathering them up, and so I'm using that wax as well. So here it goes. We're going to dip halfway in. Okay, you can see that. And so my prediction is that the waxed portion will be more drawn than the heavily waxed, let's call it. This is waxed, but not, it's just, for the manufacturer, every ounce of wax they put on there is a cost. For the beekeeper, every ounce of wax is a benefit. And then I'm going to mount these in the frames. These are permanent. I'll mount all of these with the waxed portion on the side that reads from left to right. That one's just a little stiff in that frame for some reason. I wonder why that is. Anyway, so that's what it'll look like. Waxed portion on the writing side, okay? So when we see this in the hive, we're expecting this to be strongly drawn out and this less so. Okay, so I won't make you watch the whole thing, but I'll keep the camera rolling in case I blow something up and it's funny or something. But we're just gonna do this real quick. Halfway in. Halfway in. Okay, so that's my 6 permadents. I know some folks also get bent out of shape on the black versus white. Typically the black foundation is slightly cheaper. I'm not totally sure why it is, but I suspect that they need slightly less perfect plastic. And on the other hand, I like the light because I have my extracting crew sort frames by color, and it causes endless confusion because they have a hard time telling the difference between black foundation and a frame that had, ooh, I put that one in backwards. Aha, that's why you gotta check. The difference between a black frame because it's had years and years of brood rearing that somehow got mixed into your honey supers versus a frame that's actually totally white wax but has a piece of black plastic paste in it. Okay, here's our permanents. Now the right cells. We'll dip these. I don't see that there's any bias in them before. Yeah, and you can definitely tell once you dip them how the cells are deeper and hold. I can actually feel there's a noticeable weight difference in that final product. Okay, there's our 6 right cell frames, or sheets. Now we'll put those in the frames. And just a little stiffer to snap in. Not necessarily bad, because I feel like it's also going to be stiffer to stay in. Snaps in very nice. put these in the hives tomorrow, and we will probably need to wait 2 weeks to, or I guess it'd be smart to put them in some close hives and maybe check on them more regularly. Because in 2 weeks they could be totally drawn out. If the bees are on a bit of a tear right now. I hope, like, if you guys think this isn't a fair test, let me know. But I'm thinking, like, this is the same sheet in the same hive in the same box position. And that this, if there is a difference in bees' acceptance, it should be visibly recognizable. I've had sheets of plastic go years before they finally get drawn, and I finally, to kind of work around that, I finally made my extracting crew not set those sheets aside or frame. You know, it was pretty, there's a frame with nothing in it. Why run it through the extractor? Just leave it with the empty boxes. And it was only once we started forcing those empty frames through the extractor, they get kind of all smeared with honey and the smell of honey, and the bees, and then it gets right back out in the field, the bees would start to draw that much better. So it's the smell and everything that goes with it. So, but if the bees don't take it right away, they probably are really reluctant to ever do that. So I think this is going to be a fair test. We can put these in 12 different hives and have a, you know, we're not comparing it to what else goes on in the hive, just on the same frame. I can't see how that's not a fair test of my hypothesis that this will be a faster result. If they both get drawn, what does that mean? And I still say this is better because the bees will have used a lot less honey to make all the wax that's already here. Whereas this very faint hint of, like, it was at one point stored in the same room as some wax, and that's why it smells like that. Maybe it was rubbed on or painted on. I mean, if I was making a million sheets like that, I'd get pretty tired of doing it that way too. I don't blame those guys, but I think a beekeeper needs to look after themselves. And for that reason, I encourage you to dip your foundation. I guess we'll find out in 2 weeks if I got egg in my face or not. So that's it for today. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.